Well, it's been a while.
It has been a while.
Good to see you. Welcome.
Good to be back.
Thank you. Yeah, we're having some fun. Difficult people.
Huh.
Want to talk about difficult people tonight.
Okay. You have anybody in mind in particular?
Where do I begin?
I feel like this could go a lot of different ways.
I want to talk about difficult people, how you generally acknowledge it, or do you acknowledge it, how you quote-unquote handle it, of course, not looking to out anybody, of course, but
Sure.
Instances where difficult people, whether it's social, whether it's business, things you've encountered, things you've learned in terms of dealing with them over the years. Have you changed your approach at any point in time? And why?
Okay.
Yeah.
You know what my first question is going to be, though.
I'm waiting for it.
Define difficult people.
Difficult people. I would say difficult people could be defined in many ways. I'm going to give you the lawyer answer back.
Okay.
It depends.
That's a good answer. Okay.
I think if, for the sake of this conversation, if we're looking at it from a business standpoint, a difficult person may be someone who either does not really appreciate the work you've done for them, or has a level of impatience, which is, I won't say intolerable, but doesn't make dealing with them easy. Or someone who just can never be satisfied. It's in their makeup. It's in their mechanism and the way they do business.
Okay.
Yeah. And the reason I want to talk about this is, first off, we've never done that.
No.
It's a topic we've never discussed. But number two, I don't want to believe this, but I do think that the world tends to be more caustic only because we're so reactionary. We're out there constantly reacting to every input that we get. And maybe we have to because we've got so many inputs all day long. And I think that and Rocco and I have gone down the deep end with this many times, but we don't do a lot of critical thinking in areas we probably should, because it's just easier to do what we always do and not react and make instant decisions on things and judgments and responses and so forth. And I think that breeds a little more caustic nature. And things that don't have to be difficult, we kind of make them difficult. Maybe easy conversations that really, if we sat and reflected for a moment, this is remedial, we can do this. We tend to respond right away, and often doesn't land well, and thus you've got some consternation.
I'll go last, as I'm a lawyer and I deal with difficult. I mean, that's just my profession. So I'll let anybody else take this one first.
Well, we'll go clockwise.
Great. I'm on the hot seat.
I guess the first question is, how often in your professional career do you encounter truly difficult people?
Honestly, it's fairly frequent, probably as opposed to other careers and industries. We're in a highly emotionally involved industry, especially what I do in my segment, which is health insurance, Medicare, life insurance, auto, whether it's an accident or whatever. There's always just this high level of emotion. And there's a considerable amount of fear. So I do think that difficulty stems from either that person being somewhat insecure or fearful, maybe about being taken advantage of, or always feeling like they need to have one up on you. And so there's often a posturing that comes with, in my opinion, it's unexpected, because I'm there as a consultant. I'm there to help guide them through a process. I'm there to help educate them. But they'll come defensively. Well, I've already talked to X, X, and X, and X, and X. And this is what you're going to do, and we need it by then, and this, and then you're trying to think, well, why am I in this mix then, if you've already done this? But truly difficult people, I've had them multiple times throughout my career, and I'm sure we'll tell some stories tonight, but multiple times, more than you would imagine. And I think today you're absolutely right. There's a reactionary whatever. So,
I'm up.
You're
Jess
up.
is up.
Jess is up. Trial by fire here.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Currently, I don't think I really deal with too many difficult people, not in the position that I'm in, since,
I'm not difficult.
He's not. Yeah. I think he shields all of it. So. I have definitely been in positions, though, where there have been difficult people. And just in my own experience, it's more about my reaction to that. If it's, I don't know, like if it's something that I'm asking or something that I'm starting, and then the reaction from them is then more of like they don't like what they're hearing or they don't want it to be done that way, then the next opportunity for me, I think, is then whatever my reaction is, and then that's how it's either going to like escalate or it's going to diffuse the situation. So just, again, like in previous positions that I've been in, if I don't know. I actually worked as a flight attendant several years ago, and that was one that, is very fearfully driven. When people would get on the plane and they'd constantly, and you'd ask them to do something, and they didn't, why do I have to do this? I don't want to do this right now. Or, so like it was all about the approach, and it was definitely about like then how you spoke to them in that moment. And you knew that they were, either in like a stressful situation, traveling with their children, which is, any of us that have done that is that is extremely difficult.
Piece of cake.
Yes.
Piece of cake.
Right.
It's just kind of about doing like a quick, like, kind of a glance and trying to see like what your surroundings are at that moment, if it's possible, and then kind of go from there. And, I don't know. I think that kind of drives then your response, to that. But not always. You can't always diffuse it. Sometimes people they actually want the confrontation and they want to kind of escalate it regardless of how you approach it. So,
are some people just wired for confrontation? It's in their makeup? It's kind of it's an out. Is it an excuse, or is it? Do you really think there's some validity to that?
Yeah, I think. Yes, I do think there are people that are wired for confrontation. I think I think it's how they portray that is what's interesting to me, because some people will be confrontational directly. They'll do it passive aggressively. They'll do it, kind of in a roundabout way. It's really, when I always say, like, do I deal with difficult people every day? But difficulty is defined on a lot of different levels, right?
Sure.
I'm a lawyer. We deal with adversarial situations, so there's always going to be some difficulty. My job is to always understand why this is difficult to them, why they are being difficult, what is the motivation behind it. So even when it comes to someone that's confrontational, I always try and think, why are they being confrontational? Like, what is the reasoning behind it? I tend to, at least the way I think, I don't take anything at face value. I always want to ask the next question. Like, I was talking to someone last week in my office. We were talking, and I said, when someone, they were asking, like, when someone comes back at you and like talks down to you and says, well, this is how I want it done. Like, we're the lawyer. Like, you're coming to us and you're telling us how it should be done. I said, I always ask them, that's interesting. Tell me why you think that. And let them explain their position. Because then if you get someone that's confrontational for the sake of being confrontational and you don't confront back, you question back, then you get to understand their motivation and why they're actually doing it. I try to never confront back unless I have to. I will always get them to articulate the position that they're taking and why they're taking it. And that tends to diffuse situations. If that made any sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Perplexed.
No, it's good. I just... Do you think that we have our guard up a lot as consumers today? We are expecting... Like, there's this funny yet kind of sad saying, and I won't swear. I'll try to tone down my language, but you always get effed at the drive-through. That's like, people just know they're just not going to be taken care of or given the right order, or we just expect to be messed up. We expect things to be messed up. We expect our service to be poor, and or is that just, that's not how life is? Do you find life different? I don't even mean for yourself. I'm saying what you see out there. Do you feel that we having a guard, or we've got low expectations of service? What do you think our state of expectations are dealing with other humans right now?
I think we are definitely conditioned whenever we go through something, whether depending on the severity of it, that if it's one time, then that kind of conditions us to expect then the same thing is going to happen. Or, if it's not as severe, it becomes more of like a habit. So it's kind of, yes, I agree with you, but then do you think it also comes back to kind of like your perspective? So then once you start to expect that, but if you change your perspective and you think that like, okay, whatever I went through in the drive-thru, if you're using that as an example, even though this happened, I don't know, the last 5 times, it's not going to happen this time. And that whenever your perspective is different, then your response to the person that you're kind of interacting with, if it starts, I imagine it would start at the window when you're ordering, so your response then to them is a different response than maybe you would have given in the past. So maybe that right there kind of changes the entire outcome of it.
So how you go, basically what you're saying, if I'm reading you correctly, is how you go into the exchange, the attitude you go into it. If it's positive over an expectation of negativity,
right?
The outcome, you could actually drive the outcome based upon the way you handle it from the get-go.
Yes, Yes, I believe you definitely can. And it's not all like in every single situation, but I have experience that you can.
Yeah, I agree 100%. You get what you expect. Mm-hmm. Like, I truly believe that you get what you expect. If you expect to have a bad situation, even if it's good, you're going to think it's bad because you're wired to expect that.
Your head will turn to screws.
And I notice that, like, I have to stop myself sometimes because I'll get in situations where I'm like, son of a bitch, this is going to happen again. Then I tell myself, look, don't think that way. Like, change your framing. And it's hard to do. You have to train yourself to do it. But truly, if you expect, to your point, like if you expect negativity, you're going to more than likely get it. It's like the recency effect when you never see a red sports car until you buy a red sports car. Then all you see are red sports cars. You never think of negativity until something negative happens. That's all you see. Mm-hmm. It truly is your perspective. And to your point, like I think if you go into a situation expecting I'm going to get shitty service again, you're going to get shitty service again, even if it was average or better than average.
You'll turn it into that.
You'll turn into, well, they didn't say thank you. They didn't say have a nice day. It's like, what a prick. It's like, that's
no eye contact.
Right, exactly. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, you're right. And I think you maybe alluded to there's like this defensiveness or kind of this shield that is up today. Mm-hmm. And I do believe it's prevalent because we have almost too much information.
Oh, yeah.
And it's information overload, and we see the worst of behavior, and everything is categorized or cataloged or printed or, shown. The worst of human behavior consistently all day online. So I do believe, and Rocco, this is a lead off of yours, but when you're working in gratitude, when you actually have a thankful heart, a thankful spirit, and you're with people that you admire and respect, like Rocco and I have worked together. Like, I have such incredible, like, I see his name pop up and I can't wait to answer the phone or the email or the text. So we're posturing to keep ourselves in that positive place, like you said. Yeah. And sometimes we have to fight for it because we have to get into adversarial situations. But the general public, that kind of sense of there's a little bit of angst, a little edge right now. I still feel it.
Yeah. Was it building over the past decade or so, or do you think it really launched during the time we were locked down and we're still dealing with the angst and the anxiety that came out of 2020 plus?
We lost our mind during 20. I mean, let's think about it. Like, we lost our fucking mind during 2020. Let's just be real. That's when shit went downhill, in my opinion. It was building just because, to your point, like, we see the worst. So if you're on social media, you're not seeing the best of people. You're seeing a little bit of the best, but you're seeing a lot of the worst, right? I can't tell you how many people on Facebook I've just unfollowed or unfriended because they're bitching about something.
Yeah, negativity.
It's like, I don't want to, so it's truly like who you surround yourself with, the information you take in really helps formulate your perception of reality. If I'm going to sit there and watch negative news all the time and go on Facebook and see everybody's pissed about everything, I'm probably going to have a negative outlook. But if you change who you surround yourself with, you change the information you take in, it truly helps you start changing your perception. I really think, but I think it's been going on since the rise of social media. I think people have always been this way. We just see it more now and a lot easier than we have in the past, because I can pull out my phone right now. I guarantee if I open one of my social media apps, within 2 scrolls, I will see something negative about someone. Think about that. Just think about that for a second. Like, when we all grew up, like, we didn't have information like that coming at us like this. Mm-hmm. Now it's like, if I open my phone, that information is there. If I choose to look at it and take it in and engage with it, then it's changing the way my brain thinks. And it's not good. I'm not saying I don't go on social media. I do, because some of it's funny as shit. But there's a lot of negativity there, too.
Can I ask you a question? Mm-hmm. Do you think that people overall are drawn more to the negative news or the negative, what they're seeing? Or do you think they're more drawn to positive?
I don't think we get the opportunity to see enough positive to really create habits of yearning for it. Even if we're yearning for it, if it's not readily available, it kind of like all works together poorly.
But I think you just answered the question. Because we don't see it, they've already figured out that we gravitate more towards negativity.
1,000,000%.
I mean, journalism is sensational. It's not journalism, it's sensationalism.
Yeah.
Like, that's how they sell ads.
It's tabloidish.
Yeah. If you show a bunch of puppies getting delivered, cool. You show a train wreck, everybody's watching that. Like, look at when you're driving into downtown Pittsburgh. If there's a car on the side, like, traffic comes to a screeching halt. Mm-hmm. If there was a kid walking down the street, like, with a group of puppies, people would just buzz right by. They wouldn't give a shit. Mm-hmm. We tend to look.
So is that more a commentary on human nature? Or is it, or has our human nature changed with technology over it? I mean, I don't know. Have we always been, it's like the accident scene. People are just glued to stare at it, right? I mean, is it the curiosity? Is it the morbid nature of it? Is it maybe we're a portion of society's insecure, so it's easier to see other people struggling because it makes us feel okay? Is that part of it?
That's a good point.
Yep. Yeah, to your point.
That's a pretty morbid way of looking at life, though.
No.
But I'm just trying to understand why we did touch on this a couple weeks ago. We didn't get too deep in it. Why often we as humans, our first inclination is to look to the negative, or or suspect the negative, or sometimes even seek it out, and then maybe even create it if it's not there. That's a thing.
I mean, I tend to think, and I think we touched on this before, I think it's easier to expect the negative because it's more, I think we believe it's more than likely to happen. If you're going to pick a good result or a bad result, if you pick the good result and don't get it, you're disappointed. If you pick the bad result and don't get it, you're joyful. So picking the bad result, by default, you're preparing yourself for you're not setting yourself up for disappointment.
Right.
So
if that's how we're wired, I believe you. But if that's truly how we're wired, I won't. But I'm just saying, if that's truly something innate, then that's how we're wired, then we have been cursed.
I mean, unless everybody thinks differently, I don't know. That's just how I see it.
I don't know.
No, I think, politics aside, and we go back to, the lockdown. We have come into a place where, number one, we all thought airborne things were going to kill us.
Right.
We were never going to be able to leave our houses again.
Right.
Businesses were shutting down left and right. The economy was just absolutely being destroyed. We didn't know what we were going to do with our educational systems. Our kids couldn't go to school. They weren't walking for graduation. They weren't able to play sports. I mean, we were doing all of this, and it was just this incredible shutdown. And our jobs now were changing, being eliminated, or we're working from home. We didn't even know how to do that. And it was just, or some parents were having to be teachers. Everything in our whole world shifted. So it's two ways of looking at it. And one is, bad stuff's going to happen. And what's the next woof around the next corner? Or, I made it through that. I freaking made it, and I'm stronger. And just like going to the gym, I lifted that weight, and I am better off for having confronted something so difficult.
Yep.
and gone through it. So our job security's gone now. I mean, nobody works a 30-year job, retires with a gold watch, and has a pension. Nobody, very few.
Right.
So we just did our podcast on being entrepreneurs. It was, I say, if you're in that mindset, trigger now. Do it sooner rather than later and get good at what you do and find a skill and make yourself the value.
Yeah.
Don't trust somebody else with your future. It's too risky. And so that's not fear-based, that's strength-based. I am enough to create what I need for my family and my children and my, community, whatever it is. So there's that tackling it. I think that's a little bit different aspect. I'm not going to be taken advantage of.
Right.
Do people take advantage of me? Yes.
Yeah.
Have I lost some battles? Yeah. Have I failed? Absolutely. But every time it's like, oh, well, then I learned.
Yeah. Yep. That's so true.
I don't think people want to be difficult. Most people. I think some people are just difficult because that's all they know. Because they've been doing it for so long as their first reaction to strangers or new experiences or even their own family. Their first. I've had some relatives that were older than me, and when I was growing up, you didn't go around them because they were just miserable SOBs. Now, they probably had their moments, but not to me as a kid, right? Yeah. And their first inclination of an exchange you'd have with them will be a harsh question or a grunt or whatever. And I think there's just a lot of people that maybe because there's a lack of sophistication and communication in their brain, they don't understand the benefit of positive communication at the get-go and how that could change their whole life. I think that a lot of folks are walking around and their first reaction in most circumstances is negative. It's almost like not even willingly. I think they're just conditioned to do it now. And I think that's very apparent in business. I always found that apparent in business too. The suspicion of other people. I think it goes deeper than just that particular interaction. If you dig deeper, I think it's how they operate a lot of their life that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree, and I think just going back in human nature, right? We're built to protect ourselves, right? To cavemen or whatever, looking back, we have this, hunter-gatherer mentality. We have to, so maybe that's their defense mechanism of
survival.
It's a survival mechanism instead of because I believe people live in lack or they live in abundance. There's two ways to live, right? If you think the world's against you, there's not enough for everybody. You're always going to be in survival mode. If you believe there's plenty out there, I just got to figure out how to get it. And you live in abundance, then shit's still going to bother you. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't get bothered. Like, I'm this, prime example of positivity. I get pissed off every day about stuff. However, I also understand my majority of my outlook in life is I'm going somewhere and I'm creating it. And I believe there's enough for everybody. I'm going to just find the way, find the path. Will it be hard along the way? Will I have those moments where I am in survival mode? Sure. But it's my job to make sure I pull myself back on track. I think we do, as human beings, we have this inclination to react a certain way. You have to understand yourself well enough to know when you should or shouldn't do that. And I think that's just a journey of growth. Like you have to start understanding these things about yourself. What triggers you? Why you get triggered? What is the reason behind it? And can you start reframing certain things in your mind?
Do you feel a lot of this consternation might be derived from wanting to be right? Wanting to feel like I'm correct? It's my way because I know I'm correct. I'm right. My viewpoint's right. Yours is not.
Yeah, I'll answer that. I definitely do. And I was actually going to say when Rocco was talking about, do you think that a lot of it comes from just like a selfish perspective, that the essence is that every single person, and that's kind of where the struggle comes from, is that they want things their way. Mm-hmm. And that's where maybe you can see, and, maybe if a person's younger, you might see a little more of the back and forth. There'll be moments where they will be more difficult than other moments. They kind of think through it and they're not. And then maybe in the example of your relatives that were older, just over the years, it, I don't know, in some ways kind of got the best of them, and it just settled in, the selfishness. And, and then it's like like a never-ending cycle, because the more they want and they don't get, then it kind of sets it in even more for them to expect the negative outcome, to then brace them.
It validates the
exactly.
negative. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they kind of like anticipate that, and then they're like bracing themselves for it, and they're already in their defensive stance, like before like even the interaction even happens.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think to your point too, the selfishness plays a big part. I mean, I think we can tend to be egocentric by nature. It's like, how does this impact me? How does this, when you're using the words me, I, all the time, like you're looking at it from a certain perspective. And I think that does cause confrontation. That does cause people to be difficult, because if you are looking at it purely from your own vantage point, meaning how does this impact me? What does this do for me? What do you do for me? What does this situation do for me? And you're coming at it from that way, you're always going to be difficult. Mm-hmm. Because to me, especially in taking business, right? Like, business is about teams. It's about teamwork. Like we were talking before, like you have a team of people that work with you. It's not about you. It's about your organization. Like you are doing things and bringing your team involved because it's for the betterment of your organization. It's not to free up your time so you can go and just gallivant around and do what you want. It's, if we want to grow this organization, I have to bring people on to do certain things for me. It's the we, not the me. When people focus on the me or the I, their perspective is completely wrong. If they're going to, especially in business, if you want to go far in business and you're saying I and me, you're never going to get far. Mm-hmm. Truly, you're not. Mm-hmm. I mean, I dealt with it in corporate America. I mean, it's a big problem, especially in corporate America, where it's, I was talking to a client today, and they're a big company, and they were talking about, management changes that happen. And it was like, they look at us all now as numbers. Mm. It's only what these people can do to maximize their pockets for the next 3 to 4 years and then move on. And instead of thinking about the team, it's about I. What does this do for me? Mm-hmm. How am I going to make more money? How am I going to look better to everybody? And that was a conversation I had today with a client. And it's unfortunate that happens in corporate America.
Certainly.
But that's a problem. Like, to your point, like, I think selfishness does play a huge role in this.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, when you get down to it, there's a level of self-centeredness in everybody, for sure, just from the survival standpoint, what's wired into us, but just the levels of it define one's character, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, but I agree, but I disagree. I think as you get older, I mean, not older, but just wiser.
Watch it.
Mm-hmm. You're way older than me. I know that. I get that.
Great.
You brought it up.
Here we go.
Thank you.
But I think it's
the senior side.
Yeah.
Shh, come on now. I just told this person today I was 37. They believed it.
I did. 37. I mean, I was 43, maybe.
I sold it.
You look 37 to me.
Why, thank you.
I won't use the word age. I'm saying as you get wiser, I think you don't have to be selfish. I think people, because again, the selfishness is such a misnomer of a word. I think you have to understand what you mean by it. Like, I'm always going to be selfish with my time in certain respects. Like, okay, I'm always going to make sure I work out. Is that me being selfish, or is that me making sure I have the energy to be able to take care of the people I'm in charge of?
Certainly. Yeah.
But people say that's selfish. Like you're spending this time. But no, that is a definition of selfish. If I say, no, I have to go work out, I'm going to do this, and they're looking at, well, you're just being selfish. Like, no, like I have to do this so I can maintain the energy level to make sure the people in my charge are taken care of.
Well, that's philosophy, and that's also second level thinking too. But to your point, most people in society, not that they don't have the intellect to do second level thinking, but we're just not. We're so reactionary, and we start forming opinions based upon our initial reactions to things. Mm-hmm. And like you said, it's a cycle. We have conditioned ourselves to be more stupid in terms of the way we think. I honestly believe that. And maybe it's the ease of the computer and the ease of information. I don't know. But we don't spend time contemplating anymore. Like, remember word problems when you were a kid?
Yes. I loved word problems.
I'm sure you did. I couldn't stand them sons of bitches.
No.
But you know what I mean? But they had a purpose.
Right.
Yeah, it made you think.
Right.
Yes, absolutely.
The government should assign word problems on a regular basis to all citizens.
how about all politicians? To be a politician, you have to
True.
solve
You
word
have to
problems.
solve-
Well, I mean, it's kind of funny, but the point is, it is a cycle, and I don't think there's a lot of bad folks walking around out there just looking for arguments. I just think that we have permitted ourselves to kind of be mind screwed, quite frankly, by ourselves, based on our inputs, and just continually get into this cycle where we start expecting the worst out of circumstances and other people, especially strangers. That's not good.
Oh, I mean, if I'm somewhere and I open the door for someone, people look at me like I'm crazy. And to me, it's like that's just what you do. Like if someone, but they're like, "Oh, like, thank you," or they're like, it gets awkward.
They don't know how to answer.
Well, right, and it's like I think if people, to your point, like we're very reactionary, right? So there's information. Slow down. And I have to tell myself to do it because I talk fast, think fast. I have to tell myself to slow down. When you slow down, you tend to think more critically. You don't react. You stop yourself from reacting, and you really take a step back and pause and just take it in. And that will a lot of times change the way you think about things just by slowing down. That's how I look at it. I don't know if
I could out myself now.
Please.
I have a story.
Okay.
You're allowed to do that.
Okay.
So I was younger and was in one of those.
27, right?
Last year, it was 26.
Okay.
I was in one of those networking events where they would only allow one person in a category, right? So I'm competing for my position, and they just happened to have another guy there that sold a product, and I knew his product well, and it wasn't what I was doing. I was doing like Cadillacs, and he was doing Volkswagens. That's just what it was. I knew it. I knew my business well enough, but I was young. And this guy was backslapping and, chumming up with the president and like just, doing the whole.
I haven't heard that in a long time. Chumming up. We got to be from the same generation now.
Patting me
Chumming
on-
up. Okay, chum.
Patting me on the head, doing the honey, I hope you make it in the insurance business. And I was lit. And I very calmly, in almost a psychotic fashion, dismantled him publicly. There was a little group of 4 or 5, and I just inserted myself. And he said something about his policy, and I said, well, that's interesting, because on page 37 of your policy, it doesn't cover anyone that's eligible for workers' compensation. And I went into like the whole thing, and I dismantled it. I mean, just right in front, and just then calmly walked away. Well, I got the position.
Yeah. I would hope
But
so.
I'm not so sure that was the right response.
You gotta you'll have moments where you gotta take a shot. Right?
You would have been so proud. You would have been like future attorney there. Future attorney. She's
Yes.
got the skills. But today, I will let people talk that out and just let them bury themselves. Often that's the case. So you're doing that. You step back and you're just, they go into their tirade or whatever. And
Well, that's
you
a
just
more
let 'em-
sophisticated way of dealing
It is.
with it. But again, to our earlier point, a lot of people should be doing that, but that first they just can't resist the nerds just to grab them, And sophistication goes out the door and I think the social media has helped wind us up in this little anxious-ridden fury that, like you say. I want to respond before I even hear the final sentence of their essay.
Oh yeah.
They're ready to go ahead and.
Yeah.
I still told Rocco, and he got it. What I have done a small amount of podcasts over the 375, where I'm speaking, and it's usually the one-on-ones. Where I'm speaking, and I ask a question, and by the time I even get the question out, I can see their eyes are darting. And there's a guttural response coming from their guts. It's easing their way through their throat. The words are on the tip of their tongue, and they're about ready to. I'm not even done asking the question yet. And if I recognize that early on in the podcast, it's kind of a bummer because I know I'm going to be playing this gymnastics game the entire time. But doesn't mean they're bad or good people. It's just
I love seeing that because again, people either listen to respond or listen to understand. And I love, being in negotiations with someone that I know is listening to respond, and I can see when they queued up their answer. I will change the entire sentence of what I'm going to end it with, and just see what they respond.
a
Then I
beautiful
know,
thing.
like
Grow
that's
up.
something I have to do, right? I want to if I'm taking the temperature of the person across the table from me and trying to understand them, and I see that tell that okay, that they have a response right now. I didn't even get to my point. I will make a complete different point to validate what I said, and then I know how to control that situation. So it's like those are the things, like if you're willing to do that, pausing and taking a step back and slowing down, that's what you start to understand and start to see in people. Like,
Yeah.
it becomes, but people are so caught up, and then back to your selfishness point, when people are so selfish, they're not thinking about anything but their self. What is my response going to be? How am I going to handle this? I'll say, what is this person thinking? Like, why are they acting that way? Why they move that way? Like, that's how I'm trying to think about them in those situations. I think you have to slow down to do that. And I think you got to learn to be less selfish to do that. Because look, when I was younger, like I wanted to show that I knew everything, and I was that guy that would just
Vomit all over the table.
vomit all over the table. Now it's like I'll just sit back and listen. Of
course.
Let the person talk, and I think that comes with maturity and wisdom. I think it does. I mean,
Plus, sometimes it's just really funny.
I mean, I've been in situations where where it almost becomes like a game, where you start to when you read a person so well, and you can navigate that conversation without them even knowing you're navigating it.
1,000,000%.
That's a lot of fun, and I've done it. When I was in corporate America, like with older attorneys on the other side that just didn't have the stamina to do an 8-hour negotiation. Come back after lunch, I wouldn't eat lunch. I'd let them eat lunch and be tired, and I'd get everything I wanted in that second half of the day because they just wanted to get it over with. They were tired. They ate sandwiches and bread, and they're full. And it's like these are the things you think about when you're slowing down and looking at life differently.
Yeah, that's a strategic way of moving through your profession.
I guess, or I just wasn't hungry that day.
It served you well.
Right? No, I mean it's an interesting. I keep coming back to the selfishness. 'Cause I think that point is like so valid because I think there is a level of selfishness that really impacts so many things in life that we don't even think about.
Yeah, yeah. If you don't calm the ego, that's at the center core of everybody. It's there, but if you don't have it under control, especially from a communication standpoint, it does not serve you well. It just doesn't. I mean, that's been my experience on both sides.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think that a lot of the way you deal with people today is different, much different as you've progressed through life? Does age bring the wisdom of communication, or do you think do you think that you've been dealing this way for 20 years?
I mean, if you're asking me, no, like I've changed the way I've dealt with people over time. You learn more. You learn more about yourself, your skill sets, what you can do. Like, could I read people the way I do today 10 years ago? No. 20 years ago, even worse. You just, again, like you have to make a conscious effort to understand how you do. Like when I was younger, I was more of a hothead. Like I was more reactionary to things. I was just because I'm a lawyer. I have to be adversarial. Like that was I was told this is what the profession was.
Got it.
And then when I got into the law, like I started doing that. And then I had one mentor early in my career, and he just told me, he said, "Listen more than you speak." We were getting ready for trial, and I was going to get to actually question witnesses, and he's like, "Just listen more than you speak." He's like, "They will say things they shouldn't say," and I just took that across my entire life. I'm like, okay, if I just let people talk, they're either going to build a relationship with them because they think it's a good conversation, or they're going to tell me shit they shouldn't tell me, and it's going to give me an advantage. And that's kind of how, but I learned that over time, right? I luckily had a very good mentor when I was young as a lawyer, and he got me away from that. You don't have to be a prick. You don't have to be adversarial. You can kill somebody with kindness. It's just 1,000 cuts, and you just learn to navigate that way.
I guess I'm up.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I didn't have a mentor, but I was completely different than I am now, and it was all from very difficult life experiences to have to get me to where I am. But something else I was thinking of as like when Rocco was talking about the like with him working out, and like some people maybe would think that was selfish. Do you think that we're kind of trained though now more so as people to not accept no as an answer? So like everybody's expecting, I mean, it goes hand in hand with the whole selfishness. And so everybody, because they think that they know exactly how things should be and that, they're right and that it should it should go this way. If they hear a response that's not in line with what, they again think should be, then, that kind of like causes the reaction out of them. I mean, I can say at least, and I don't know, Lynn, if you feel the same way, but at least like when my kids were younger, it was interesting to me like how they were being trained in school. And I'm talking like at a very young age. They were not being told no, like they couldn't do things. It was positioned in a way that either like let's divert their attention or, let's kind of spin this into a more like positive. Now, I mean, at home, that wasn't the case. I mean, they heard no and they heard, that no, this is not how it's going to be. But it just, I don't know, it's just a thought that I sometimes see in society that there's a lot of people. And then like, it kind of goes instant gratification. I mean, we're so used to getting whatever it is that we want literally within that moment. So then if they're getting a pushback to something, that is going to then kind of warrant the response. I mean, so they think, that they're giving in like a negative way.
No, I think that's a great point.
Yeah.
I think that's a great point.
I think people are stuck with being right as opposed to what is right.
Oh, that's good.
I think that's what it is. Like they're so stuck on like they have to be right. To your point, they don't want to hear no. They have to be right instead of understanding what is actually right in this situation. Like I deal with it when I've argued with other lawyers or just other business people. It's even if they're wrong, even if they're dead to rights, what they're trying to articulate, they still have to articulate it to make me think they were also right. And to me, it's like you weren't. Like I get it. Like cool, thanks for letting me know, but this is how it's done. This is what we're gonna do. But there are a lot of people out there that get so caught up in themselves, and it comes back to the selfishness, that they can't take a situation and learn from it and say, I was wrong. Why was I wrong? Let me learn from this moment, take that information, be better next time. It's shit. This person's right. I have to show them I was also right because I don't want to be bested by
It becomes combat.
It becomes combative, and that comes back to the confrontation. It all circles back to that's why how people get difficult. Instead of trying to understand in the moment what is right, and if you weren't right, learning from it.
Yes.
Like, I've learned more from the failures I've had in my life and the losses than I have from anything.
But it takes
good I've done.
humility to learn anything.
Yeah, I mean, I've done the stupidest shit in my life. I bought a building that was leaning, and I'm like, this is a good investment. Like, I mean, I'm just saying, like, so you learn from things. And
I was not his realtor at that time. Before I knew the guy.
My partner was also a lawyer. He was like, this is a great investment. Like, yes. Why does this not make sense? Meanwhile, we had to tear the building down, lost a bunch of money on it.
The Leaning Tower of Rocco.
Yeah, it definitely was. But I learned from that. Like, I learned from that. That taught me not to trust government officials, not to trust documents always, not to trust what people tell you, and to validate. Like, I was younger. I was more naive when it came to investing in real estate. I'm like, oh, I'll get past inspection. There's people living there. It's leaning, but I mean, why would they let somebody live there if we're going to save the $500 for the home inspection. We'll take it as is. Meanwhile, the building was legitimately leaning between two buildings.
Wait, you could visibly see this?
It was called the Leaning Tower of Tarentum, like in the newspaper. Like it was leaning like this, and we bought it, and we're like, that makes sense. I'm not even joking. This is not.
Again, I was not his realtor. Please.
I didn't know we had a realtor. I just think
disclaimer.
Disclaimer here for sure.
Caveat: we had laundromats. It had a laundromat in the building. That's why we bought it, for the laundromat in the bottom. The laundromat wasn't leaning. The top of the building was. So I learned a lot from that. That's what I'm saying. So I learned a lot, but that was back then where I thought I knew everything.
Yeah.
And then that was a kick in the nuts. It's like, no, you don't. And that really slowed me down a lot because it was at a time in my life where I didn't have the money to lose and I lost the money. And you're like,
is that always the case?
Yeah, I mean, but it's right. You learn from it. And I think like that's why I seek failure almost, right? Or I seek making mistakes, because if I'm not making mistakes or taking chances that I'm missing on, I'm never going to grow. I'm never going to learn.
Right.
I don't want to always get it right.
Oh, right.
I get
Yeah.
more things wrong than I get right, but that makes me get the things right that I get right.
Correct. When you hear the title entitlements thrown around, the news or whatever, I think everybody goes to money. Like, you think of entitlements, people are entitled and they feel entitled. But I really think that's only like a small part of the equation. I think the entitlement we deal with each other is there's a lot of ideas that people are entitled to be liked by everybody, which is really kind of thinking out of the box. But we've been down this road. I mean, there are people in our society that have believe that they're entitled to be liked by everybody, and when they're not liked, they don't understand why, and they get upset with it. And we're entitled to our feelings. We're entitled to have our feelings matter. And I think all these things create, for lack of a phrase, difficult exchanges / difficult people. We really, the mindset of the average day American, and I can't prove it, I hope I'm wrong, but it seems like it's wired a lot different than it was 20 years ago. In terms of how we view society and how we view our community and how we view maybe our employer, what we feel we deserve, maybe. Like the word deserve might not have even been in the lexicon 20, 30 years ago like it is today. And I think that has not served us well, especially the past 5-ish years. I maybe I'm wrong, but it just appears to me that feeling that your every whim or your whims need to be legitimized and honored by society is almost a mind sickness to me. And when I see it, I don't get it. It's so foreign to me, that level of expectation or entitlement. That's way heavier to me than the money thing. Way heavier. It's like the expectation of my social place is defined by how respected I am and how boisterous I can be. Because there's an element of that out there. You don't think?
No, I agree. I think, but I don't want to be liked by everybody, because then what's unique about me?
Exactly right.
I don't want to be vanilla cake. I mean, everybody likes vanilla cake, right? I mean, I think so, but I mean, I don't want to be. I think if you want to be liked by everybody, then you're striving to be average. Mm-hmm. Because if everybody likes you, then you're just out. You don't rub anybody the wrong way. You're not doing anything significant that's causing people to feel that friction.
Of course.
I think the more successful people become in life, not just in business, but just in life in general, like they grow as a person, I think they cause more people to dislike them because people are looking into the mirror. And they're seeing who they aren't.
1,000,000%.
And that causes the rub.
That's good.
That causes the rub.
1,000,000%.
That's how I see it.
Yeah.
Maybe you guys see it differently. I don't know.
Oh, that's so good. I'm just marinating on that because it's so true. I think when I was younger, certainly, I was a gymnast. I was in the gym 6 days a week, 4 hours a day. I was doing all the same things that the other girls were doing. But I remember just not making the cut into the next level team and thinking, well, I'm working just as hard. But I stomached that disappointment. Mm-hmm. Did I ever make that next level team? No, I didn't. But I stomached the disappointment, and I don't think we allow a lot of the stomaching of the disappointments anymore.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So there's part of that. Mm-hmm. But boy, that's a powerful statement. I think what you just said is, when I'm looking at the whole of life and how things are different today, there are people that envy me. And I think if you only knew my story, which is somewhere between an episode of Cops and some other reality shows that I won't even mention. You have no idea how cruddy it's been to go through what I've gone through.
Cruddy?
Cruddy.
Cruddy? Oh, you're definitely on the right side of the table now.
This is the senior section. We'll slide our AARP cards across there.
I don't know what you're talking about.
But it's, it's been not a pretty journey. But I think, the testament to that, and maybe what you're saying, and this is a little bit off the topic, but I've had people come into my world, see me on social media, see my company, my business, and we're happy and we love what we do, and da-da-da. And like in 6 months, 8 months, they grind out. They're like, this is hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is hard.
Yes, exactly.
It is really hard.
Yeah.
Or the jealousy comes in and it's like, well, I want what you want without putting in the licks. And it's like, okay, well, that's not going to happen either.
That's exactly
You're not
it.
going to like everybody that works for you. I know I said it here, but that's just the reality. You've got to get good people on your team, and you may not be a personality match with every single person. But if that person does their role well and moves your company forward, you might need a component like that. So I think we're used to having a little bit of that friction on an ongoing basis and not feeling so threatened or defensive about it.
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, the more success you have in life, the more friction it does cause. And there was a pod, I think it might have been, I can't remember who, I saw a podcast and the guy said, everybody wants to view, no one wants to climb. Like, and it's so true. And it's like, another more crass way of putting it is I said, everyone wants to congratulate you when you're pregnant, but no one realizes how many times you've been effed to get there. And like, but that's like, think about, like, I look at like it has been the hardest road of my life, like trying to build a firm. Like just walking away from corporate America, just saying, I quit. I'll figure it out. Like literally I quit. Just no plan, just quit. And then people think it's easy. Like it's not easy. But I don't complain about it. You just do it. You just do it. And I think people, like that quote of everybody wants to view, but no one wants to make the climb, because the climb is hard. Like it's hard. Like I work 14 hours a day. Like I'm never not thinking about the business. There's not a day where I'm like, I'm just not going to care today. Like it's my life and it's my legacy. And I think it's hard. And we've all in this table, like I know all of you personally, we've all been through struggles in life. And I think people that don't go through struggle have a very easy time at pointing at other people as the problem. I mean, they do. They say that you're the problem. It's like, well, no, that's not the case. Like, you just don't understand adversity, because they're maybe going through the adversity in the moment, but they don't recognize it. They look at someone else as the problem when it's, no, this is just the adversity you need to go through to get to where you want to go, but they don't want to do the work that's required to go through it. That's how I see it.
Is life too damn easy?
I don't know. I mean, if I had pretty feet, I'd be on OnlyFans and not being a lawyer. I mean, it could be easy, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. I mean,
that took a rather odd and dark twist.
We've talked about that before. Like, is it easy? Yeah, I mean, define easy. I mean, there are people that go out and make money by doing shit like that. Like, that's easy.
Is it too easy just to survive today? And thus it's yielding people that are just not the kind of person that's going to contribute much to society. And when they move around in society, they're not real kind to others.
What do you think? I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
I'll bring the negative, buddy. Don't worry.
I think everybody's definitely looking for the easy road. And I do think that that's one unfortunate part of social media. It kind of speaks back to also what you were saying, Eric, earlier, like with people and how they, the entitlement. So whenever something goes wrong, I mean, I've personally been in a situation and immediately the camera comes out and there's, they want to film and they want to, take footage of what's going on, because they, in their mind, they are entitled and they believe that, and they're going to film every word that's spoken and every action, even though it's,
Do people randomly do that because you mentioned that they're entitled to do it? Okay, but beyond that, is that experience somehow currency of some kind? Is it valuable to them, like to capture that moment of other people's grief? Is it like, I don't get it, and I'm trying to understand why it's so prevalent. That's not helping the national discord either. The national conversation is because we're constantly whipping our phones out and filming every horrible thing instead of helping the woman who's getting beat up on the subway where, 10 people around her going like this. I mean, it's like, do we do that because that footage is currency, or are we conditioned to do that? Do we see other people doing it and we immediately do it? I mean, why do we do that? It's a phenomenal phenomenon is what it is. It's something.
Well,
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, please go.
Well, I was going to say what you were talking about. Like, I think what I took from you is like, when you're in a situation and a confrontation, like people want to pull out the camera to record the confrontation because they get to record their perspective of it. Mm-hmm. So they can say, here's what really happened, but that's only one perspective.
Sure,
there's
I get
two
it.
sides. There's three sides every
I get
story,
that. I get that.
And I think that's why people, and that was the situation you were talking about. Like, I'm assuming that's what it was.
It was, but it does go, like you said as well. I mean, it does go both ways. And the fact that everybody has that, at their fingertips, I think that has kind of, contributed to this sense of entitlement. And it's definitely fostered the mentality of that, like, their perspective is the correct one without even, and it's easy
good.
because like once you get that recorded again from one side, and then it can, it can go a million different ways at that point, because then it's, posted, and then there's, sometimes, and this does happen apparently, then it'll kind of go viral, right? And then that person, then the fame of, so that kind of speaks to what you're talking about, that if something, so it's kind of, that is one of the, that I see at least one of the drawbacks to the social media, and with everybody having access to that. And then that also, I think, kind of creates a mentality of just existing. Like you also were saying, it kind of, everyone's going to get rich off of that. And there is a lot of, it just kind of eliminates the work ethic.
The illusion, I believe,
Yes.
the illusion of fame is so strong today because there's a belief that the access to get fame is right at our fingertips. Whereas prior at the cell phone, prior social media, fame was something you saw on Entertainment Tonight, right? Or you didn't. The average person didn't realistically crave it, deeply, because it was so far out of the norm. But there's an illusion now that it's not out of the norm. Like, we don't care about movie stars anymore. Do you notice that? Like, movie stars are no big deal. Even like sports athletes, the teams are important to people, but the individual players don't mean too much anymore compared to the way it was prior. Rock and roll musicians don't mean shit. No one really cares. I think it's because we can reach out and touch, and we now know more about everybody than we want to. But I think the idea of fame being possible for the average person is now another currency. It's a strong currency, like money.
Yeah.
Fame, hits, viral. 1 million people seeing my face and me doing this. Now, all of a sudden, for whatever it means, maybe nothing, but it's a marker of some kind, right?
Yeah, I agree, but I think I will play it the other way. I think because of that, no one should bitch about their situation because you're just lazy. There's a million ways to make money. Like, you can go out and pull out your phone and just record your life, and eventually, if you do it long enough, you'll make money.
Yeah, film your feet.
So obviously, yeah. I mean, if my toenails weren't all messed up from the Tough Mudder, that blowyourfeet.com. I mean, but when you think of
Lawyerfeet.com.
no.
Lawyerfeet.com.
I'm flat-footed. I have a bunion sticks out, so those aren't going to be money makers. Those are not money makers.
Get those bunions worked on. You'll be all right.
But I come back to that because, like, to me, like, I get very frustrated when I hear people say, woe is me. Because no one handed me shit. Like, you just work. Right. And if I wasn't practicing law or had a law degree, I'd figure out a way to make money on social media. It's not hard to do. Like, it just takes effort. Like, people don't want to put in the work. It all boils down to, do you have the work ethic? Are you willing to do what it takes when no one's watching? Most people don't want to do it because they just want the view, they don't want the climb. So yes, that people have this craving of fame, this currency, but then they should shut the fuck up if you're not making it in life, because if you have a phone, you can make money. You can easily make money. You got to figure out the way to do it. If other people that literally do stupid shit get paid tens of thousands of dollars a month, there's a way to make a couple grand a month.
I would agree. I would totally agree. I just think that we want things easy because our world has made it easy for us to exist. Too easy. Too easy.
too
maybe
easy
the
to be
pandemic,
easy.
maybe the pandemic also exacerbated that. Maybe for a while there, I don't know. But it seems like to me, we used to have this joke, and the joke was, and you'll remember this. You're not that young. One of the great things about the recession of the early '90s, I remember, was because I was
a kid.
Well, okay, but hear me out. I was in my early 20s, and when you would go out to a restaurant, the service was impeccable because who was waiting on you was people with master's degrees, college degrees. I mean, they were serving you because they were out trying to find a job. The quality of service was incredible because the quality of person, sophistication, was better. You know, we were, I believe, better human beings toward each other at that time too. But it's so easy to exist today that taking pride in a job really has to it really has to come from within. And if you didn't get that kind of urging from your parents or your guardians, you're not going to get it on your own. It's a rare case that people just find it, you know. And I it's too easy to survive, and that's a more horrible thing to say. But I've been saying this for years. I think that ease of just getting by today is not helping the dialogue. It just isn't. It just isn't. The lack of having to be industrious, even a little bit. You know, it just.
I mean, it's hard for me to wrap my brain around because like there has not been a time in my life that I could think of that I had a job like I'm going to half-ass this one. Like even when I worked at a grocery store, bagging groceries, like I wasn't half-assing it.
Well, that's the entrepreneurial thing. If you are an entrepreneur with any entrepreneur with any level of success, then you've had quality work ethic probably for your whole life.
Yeah.
So you're not going to understand the observation I'm making, and I think there's just a lot of people out there with low expectations because I got this one-bedroom apartment, I got a 75-inch television, I got an Xbox, you know, I got Uber Eats bringing food here, and, you know, I might not have a lot, but I got that stuff, and I'm entertained, and, you know, I got the internet, and I don't, you see what I mean? I just don't think we yearn for much.
Well, here's the thing: if that is you, then that's cool. Like if that's what you want your
Not
life
me.
to be. No, I'm not saying you. I'm saying if a person says, and that's their happiness, that's their right. Like, okay. Where I get frustrated with shit like that is when those people then complain.
Of course.
Like if you say because I have friends that, you know, they always say to me like must be nice. I'm like no, not must be nice. Like I've worked my ass off. Okay.
Right.
And if they like their life the way it is, that's great. Like I'm happy for
100%.
them. But don't complain about shit you don't have if you're not working
Correct.
to get the stuff you don't have.
Correct.
That's where I get it because I think everybody's right to live. You want to live in a 1-bedroom apartment, play Xbox all night, and order McDonald's on Uber
Well,
Eats.
it wasn't.
Sounds fun to me.
It wasn't a criticism. It was saying that there's so much technology now, and
Right.
some of the niceties in life have become so inexpensive
Right.
that we've created these little cocoons that kind of breed. I hate to say laziness, but you know it's
Apathy.
complacency.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Yeah,
you know?
apathy. Yeah, complacency.
Apathy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and on a wide scale basis, I think, unfortunately.
Now you add AI to the mix, it's like
There you go.
It's even easier.
There you go.
You know, I mean, think about that. And that's the other thing too. Like, if people are complaining about not knowing something or not knowing how to do something, and you don't know how to open a website and type in a question, just stop. Like, it's gotten so easy now to get the information you need. So I'm to the point where it's like the people, everybody can live the way they want. Truly, that's your right as an American. Just don't complain about people that are ahead of you if you're not willing to do what they did to get there. Because nothing's gonna be handed to you. There's no equality of outcome, equality of opportunity. Cool.
I hope not.
But it's like we all want this. We all should have the same. No, that's not how it works.
No.
It's not how it works at all.
And my pushback might be a little bit of, we also have rampant depression. Because people have no purpose.
Right.
Because the us for and
Ooh,
no
that's
more
good.
doesn't work.
Yeah.
The
That's
us for
good.
and no more in this, you know,
What do you
confined
mean? Wait, back
environment.
up. What do you mean us for and no more?
Well, we're just going to take care of this. You know, my little room, my little box, my little whatever. As long as I can take care of, and that is, to your point, it's selfish. First of all,
Sure it is.
someone asked me if you could tell your younger self anything, what would it be? Well, of course, you know, I wanted to wax wise. The only thing that came to my mind is money's great. Make as much as you can,
Yeah.
because there's not an opportunity that doesn't require money that can help somebody. Like, just make as much. I remember a pastor saying this. He's like, oh, you can make, you know, 500,000. You can live on 80. Great. Give 420 away. There's plenty of people that could use that to seed businesses, to help charities, to whatever. Like, this mentality of living in this little box is not serving people well. We have, I forget what the percent, I just got it off of a Medicare thing I was doing, but how many people are on mental health drugs? And again, I don't disparage that if it helps you, but we have a rampant epidemic of anxiety and depression in this country, because I do think we're lacking connection and we're lacking the ability to go do more than just taking care of myself.
What was the idea of we're suppressing creativity? Think of all the
100%.
creativity that never gets translated from the brain to the mouth and you know and spoken of because of the depression. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. You know, I'm 100% there with you. I think that is a huge. And I don't have any statistics either, but that has to be a huge component of why there is that complacency.
I deal with it every day, and you know what's interesting is that the elder population, as they're retiring, same thing, because they're giving up that productive contribution to their communities, and they're losing an identity. And I'm not saying it's all just money.
Right.
So I have sat across the table or the desk with people that are retiring, looking absolutely devastated. Like, what is my worth and value? And I'm like, well, first of all, I said, find something you're passionate about. There's a charity somewhere that can use your help. I said, but let me give you an illustration. If you have nothing to give, I was a mom with 4 kids, and I remember one day going to the grocery store. I had 2 carts, 2 kids in the cart, 2 kids holding on. I mean, 2 loaded. And I was trying to get into my car, and it was windy, and the doors, and I just cried. And this little man walked across the parking lot and said to me, do you need some help? I was like, if you could just help me get these groceries and kids in my car. I said, if you could babysit for a mom to go out for an hour or 2 to get her errands done without the kids, what a blessing. I mean, you have a role to play continually in your community. Find something, please. Don't depend on golf or your soap operas to get you through the rest of life. That's not what this is about. We are meant to be connected. It's relationships are like buttons on an elevator. Some are going to take you up, some are going to take you down, but you need to stay connected.
Yeah.
The minute you lose that connection, that's when all purpose, the fear, because you're being fed some source that isn't reality. You know, and when I hear, well, most people believe this, I'm like, no, they don't. And then I get that, well, how do you know? Because I sit with hundreds and thousands of people in the course of a year, and I would know.
Yeah.
Because I'm having real conversations every single day, belly to belly. What you think or what you're hearing, that's not the truth.
Yeah.
That's what they want you to believe, but that's not the truth.
Yeah.
Get out and talk to people.
Yeah, I mean, and to your point, like, I think purpose matters. The older I get, the more I understand. I'm still trying to figure out your purpose. Like, you never know. You just keep moving forward. But I think finding that purpose as to why you're doing something. Like, to me, with, like, the firm, it's not about money. It's about legacy. It's about building something that people said I couldn't do. Like, that's what it is. And that's the purpose driving me right now. And then that will change over time. Like, when I first became a lawyer, I was like, I want to make money. Like, cool, I'm a lawyer, I want to make money. Like, I didn't have money growing up. I want to make money. And now it's more of like, I want to create something. I want to build something different that lives on past me. And I want to do it because people told me I couldn't. But I think having that purpose in any part of your life, not even professionally, but personally, like, what is your personal purpose? Like, Is it connecting with people? Is it helping people? I think people need to take a moment of self-reflection and really try and understand what they're called to do, and really start embracing that. And it's not an easy thing. Like, I still don't know necessarily what I'm called to do. I feel like I'm supposed to do something. I'm just going to keep moving forward, and wherever that takes me, it takes me. But I think you have
Isn't
to
that
be
beautiful, though? That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
It's great.
That idea of just the uncertainty of it all.
Yeah.
There's a knowing that you're doing something that makes you feel good. You're on a journey that makes you feel good, and you have belief in that journey will yield good things.
Yeah.
That to me is like exciting. I don't want to know what's ahead. You know what I mean? Like,
No,
I don't
yeah,
really
yeah.
want
Right.
to know.
Yeah. I agree. It's,
You know?
yeah, the uncertainty is what is fun, because if you knew
Exactly.
where you were going,
Exactly.
I mean, that's how I
But
look
not
at
for
it.
everybody. That's a
No,
problem.
People want certainty. They want
You
to
know?
know. And to me, it's like, if you know the outcome, would you actually do the thing? You know, like, I want to do the thing without knowing the outcome. Whatever the outcome is, it is. But if there's things in life where if I knew what the outcome was, I probably wouldn't have did it. But in that journey, I learned a lot. You know, I wouldn't have bought the Leaning Building had I known I was going to have to tear it down. But I learned a lot. So, you know, I don't know. I'm just giving an example. It's an easy example to give. I don't know. I think it is the uncertainty. I mean, do you agree? You look like you agree.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
We had
But-
this conversation, I feel like, recently, didn't we? We had a conversation
yes.
like this. We did.
We
This
actually did.
Yes, this was ringing a bell to me. Like, I feel like I just had this conversation.
I know, it was like almost like a deja vu,
I
right?
know,
I know.
right,
I
yes,
kind of looked
okay.
like, what is happening? Oh yeah, I mean, but I do think that now, again, like everybody, they're so accustomed to, well, I mean, if there's not much going on and they're in a fairly complacent state, then they can kind of control the outcome. And so I think people get comfortable with that, and that's what they prefer. And it's, you know, which also I think kind of can create that confrontation whenever things aren't going the way that they're expecting, that they have grown used to them going. And so that also is a bit of a problem. So, yeah, I mean, there's just, yeah, I mean, I think it completely takes the joy out of life, you know, whenever that is happening, you know, that it should be about the uncertainty, because, I mean, we should have hope. I mean, we definitely should have hope for the future and hope for, you know, where things are going. But
Do you think the average person contemplates their purpose?
no.
No, I don't.
I think it used to be, but I think with social media, we're so easily distracted, and there's so much to fill our time. When I heard somebody, and I've heard two people say it to me, they can't stand to be in quiet, and I'm like, that's a problem.
Right.
I crave it, and I do have times where it's just quiet, and I'm not a meditator. I'm sorry, I'm not good at that. But the quiet might just be, I'm reading something,
Yeah.
I'm writing some notes, whatever. But when I saw Rocco had the pen out weekend, that's what we do on the weekends.
yeah.
I mean, we're not, I'm not scrolling social media and watching movies. I'm not. I'm trying to get something in my life organized or whatever. So I think there's these postures where, first of all, it's gratitude. Second of all, get out into your community, make sure you're connecting with people, make yourself uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And then I started a practice, and it was a book I read. Every day, do something small, a good positive change. Just drink more water or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Every quarter, do something you've never done. I went to a drum circle. It was interesting. I just showed up because I was telling one of my best friends, I was like, listen, I just don't want to be insurance Lynn everywhere. I just want to go.
Your drum circle in now.
Tom.
No joke. I walk in, one of my clients is there. I was like, oh, jeez. You know, I know everybody. Rocco and I have done this. You know, we know everybody everywhere. But do one quarter, do something that you've never done. And once a year, do something really epic, whatever that is. You know, and people will say, well, you travel. Yeah, I do. I travel alone. Like, I'll just fly somewhere for 3 or 4 days. And usually it's to go see my son play in concert.
Yeah.
And then I just explore that area, like somewhere I've never been. It's just, you know, and that doesn't have to be that. But, you know, it's like constantly making yourself uncomfortable to change, to grow, to experience them. I'll probably never go back to the drums.
I'll gather that I'll gather that most people are not courageous enough. That's courageous is a probably ridiculous word to use, but I can't think of any other right now. In their own little sphere, they're not courageous enough to do that, to make themselves uncomfortable.
But are you going to live this life vicariously on a screen?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Like, I'll tell you what, like after I went through a rough divorce, I spent some time hibernating. Mm-hmm. And it was real quick. It was a real quick downward spiral.
I've been there.
Real quick.
Yeah.
And I went, oh, this can't happen. I owe it to those, my family, my friends, my kids. I owe it to them to not do this and not let this happen.
Yep.
But that's the self-introspection. Do people think, what is my purpose? How does my behavior impact someone else?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, to your point, like I think people the average person seeks comfort. Mm-hmm. And I think you made an interesting point. Like when something rubs up against their expectation of that comfort, it causes the confrontation. It causes the difficulty because they had this is my life. This is the box I've created. It's comfortable. This is what I expect these outcomes to be. And when something butts up against the outcome, that makes them confrontational and difficult because they don't like to be. It's uncomfortable because it's not what they expected. They're so used to living in, I know exactly what's going to happen. I wake up the same way. I do the same thing every day. Like I walk into my office every day. Like I have no idea what the hell's going to happen. Like I do. I mean, you try and keep me organized, and I'm just like Like I mean, I probably have 57 unread emails since I've been sitting here. I mean, today was the day where I just had a bunch of meetings, and so but I like that. Like if I came in and knew it was going to happen every day, I'd lose my mind.
Right.
Like I would literally lose my mind.
Yeah, I would too.
I've never sought comfort. Like I always want to be uncomfortable. If I'm comfortable, I will cause something to make me uncomfortable. I will just throw a bomb in the middle of the room because I'm like, I need something chaotic to happen. But I think people that seek comfort, like they truly do, when something rubs up against that perception of what the outcome is going to be, their comfortable outcome, it really messes with them. And that's when you see the true color in people.
Yeah, I love being uncomfortable because I've been uncomfortable my whole life, even when I didn't want to be. You know, I always felt like I was either a fish out of water or, you know, I'm hanging out there by a thread, or I've always had that, and I'm not even sure that's real healthy, but it's pretty much how I've lived. I mean, I thought of you today because, perfect example. Like I'm preparing every morning. I go down, I prepare for this radio gig, and you know, there's certain things I have to do every morning to prepare. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, I'm up there winging a lot of stuff. You know, like I just open the mic up like this, talking out. I mean, because it's probably not the most polished, but I'm just more comfortable when I know that for lack of a better phrase, my balls are hanging out on a limb here. You know, you know, and it was like the 9 o'clock hour, and I was going into this segment where I could have just blown through it and just played more music to the end of the day, and that would have been perfectly fine. I had met my expectations for the day. But I'm like, nah, you know, I got 3 minutes. I'll find something on the web to talk about. Got 3 minutes. And I found something to talk about. And as I'm doing it, and I'm ending with my little monologue, and I hit the splash button, you know, for the sound effect, and it goes to commercial. I go, that is living on a fucking edge, man. This is live radio. 3 minutes ago, I had no idea what I was going to talk about. And that was a pretty good bit. And I'm thinking that, and I was thinking that is being truly uncomfortable, but finding joy in the excitement of it.
Right.
Right? Yeah. I mean, yes. Yeah.
I'm not sure my employer would love to hear that.
No, I mean, I did live radio with you. I was like, okay, like, don't know what we're going to talk about. I brought a notebook the first day to the studio.
That never happened again.
No,
I told him, you don't need that.
I'm like, what are we going to talk? I would literally go every Saturday with him for what? A 2-hour show.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like, I don't even know what we're going to talk about. He was like, on the way there, he's like, I'll cue up something. I'm like, okay.
But it's either authentic or it's not.
Right, but I couldn't swear. I couldn't swear. That was the hardest thing for me to do.
But he did.
One time.
So he's capable of it.
30 like halfway through the year, right? I said shit on the air.
Oh no.
Yeah, and you also swore that episode
did I
too.
say?
You said piss.
I said piss.
You said
yeah.
piss, and I said
That's
shit.
not a
Same
swear
episode.
word.
Oh gee.
Yeah,
But that was like, I
was.
loved it. I love being uncomfortable, like
Yeah.
not knowing like what we're going to talk about. Like I would just
Well, you build muscle. You know,
Yeah,
you're
it was
learning
fun.
muscle. Yeah,
it was fun.
with
We'd
doing
meet
that.
at Sheets and Moon. We'd get in the car, drive there, and I'm like, "What are we going to talk about?" Like, "Oh, we'll figure it out." And I would just go up there and stand there, and he would just start talking, and I would just answer questions, and we would just go. I don't even know where we'd end up sometimes.
That's so good though.
It was and then Matt, our producer, he was awesome because he would just sit there and then he'd like chime in. Then it'd be like a three-way conversation, and we all had different viewpoints. And I'm like, this is getting out of control, but it was awesome because I loved it.
That's
But
great.
that's like, it's being uncomfortable. And I think people don't seek that out enough. Like truly, like
It's exciting to me.
yeah, like there's being physically uncomfortable, right? Like working out and pushing yourself, but like being mentally uncomfortable, like that's a different level. Like it really is. And I think like I've done them both. And if I had to pick one, I like being mentally uncomfortable.
Yes.
Yeah, because I ain't jumping
I
out of
agree.
an airplane.
No, I don't want to do that.
I'd be very uncomfortable doing that. I can assure you.
No, yeah,
I'm not doing that. No. Perfectly good airplane, not jumping out. No,
No, I don't think I could do that.
not gonna bungee jump. Not
I've
gonna
done
do-
that. I mean, I've cliff dive. I haven't bungee jumped, but I've
Yeah.
cliff dive. That was fun.
Yeah, have fun with that.
Yeah. But I think, people need people. I think people would have a lot easier time in life if they just embrace uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because life gets a lot easier when you realize that life is going to be uncomfortable and be okay with it.
Well, it builds confidence. You know, you build confidence here that leads you to
And
be more confident doing
competence.
something. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but you can't get confidence unless you gain
Sure.
some confidence to
Yes.
try something.
Yes.
And the only way you're going to do it is repetition.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in any capacity, and
Yeah.
and it's if you're going to constantly fear the unknown, then
Yeah.
you're going to have to live in a very small world.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and that's okay for some. I'm not saying it isn't, but it probably leads to depression.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean,
It's the two-sided paddle of pride and insecurity. So there's this. Everyone has pride. I mean, you remember that first presentation you had to give in school, or the time you fell on the playground, and that's it. You're scarred for life. Your life is over. You will never recover from that moment of dropping your lunch tray or whatever it was. Right?
Oh, well, when the
I
first
mean-
girl I asked to go out with me told me no, it was just the
That was
point
it.
where
Yeah.
when
It's
then
over.
and then the whole
It's
school
over.
found out about it.
Yes.
It was just like the most demoralizing thing imaginable. My 5th grade heart was broken. I mean, here I am
I
talking
feel it
about it.
today.
Here I am talking about it at
right.
59
you were
years
definitely
old.
scarred. You were definitely scarred.
Yeah, man, it
That
messed
was
me
a
up
deep
bad.
one, by the way.
Messed me up bad.
Right.
And I actually went out and had a drink with her. Like, oh wait, hold on. It would have been maybe, I don't know, 15 years after we graduated high school. And I told her, I said, you don't know the damage you did to me. And then the funny part about it was she was like, oh, well, we can, you want to golf? And I went, nah, I'm good. That was so satisfying.
That was a
I'm
moment.
sorry. I'm sorry. I'm good.
Oh my goodness. But there's like this, everybody wants everybody to be authentic.
Yeah.
But, and we look for those flaws because you're right. It kind of levels the playing field that we know we're, for me, it's not that I even look for the flaws. I actually want to know just how you overcame it. Like I'm more geared on that and realizing that I don't actually want to be average, but I'm okay to sit at somebody's feet and go, I have no idea how to do, like my new thing. I want to do a greenhouse. I don't know why. I want to grow my own things. Heck, if I had chickens, I'd be a millionaire right now. Right?
Yes, with eggs.
Should have been
absolutely.
doing that.
That's
So,
right.
but if I could do a greenhouse, I'm just, I'm thinking about it.
Okay.
I have no idea. What's a good greenhouse? How do I plant it? Do I have heat in it? Like, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I am going to begin the process of learning how to do that. Why not?
Yeah.
It's something I want to do, right? And I'm okay to go to the person and say, because I do know somebody that's got an exceptional greenhouse, how do I start this? I know nothing, absolutely nothing. But that's a tough place for people to be.
So would you say that that's
there does not appear to be a widespread amount of humility in society.
Right.
And to admit that you don't know something and you want to learn and asking someone, that takes a lot of humility. You have to be at a place of is it self-deprecating? It really isn't, but I think some people will view it. Some people view them admitting they don't know something as being almost self-deprecating. Wouldn't you think?
Absolutely.
There's a mentality out
It
there.
can be embarrassing, sure.
Yeah, and I think humility and pride are a little bit, because I look at it like, I think I have a lot of humility. I think my pride will get in the way of me asking for help.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I recognize that about myself. I mean,
All of us.
Do you ask for directions?
No, I have a phone. No, I'd ask for directions. I ask Apple for directions, and Apple tells me where to go. And so I just follow the blue line on my screen.
All right, they're not that young. In the before times.
Okay, MapQuest.
Before
AAA.
Right.
Triptych,
you
Triptych.
did get AAA to go to Du Bois. You didn't get AAA. My question is, if you were trying to find a farm in Du Bois
I probably never stopped and asked for directions. I would drive around until I found it.
Right.
If I think about it, I probably never. I can't remember a time where I've asked for directions. I've always tried to figure it out myself.
It's your chromosome.
I mean, well, yeah. I mean, look, I think I'm definitely. Well, okay, I get it. But I do think, like, look, yeah, does pride get in the way? Sure. I think I'm the most flawed person there is. I understand that, and I think it's a learning. It's a journey trying to. But there are, like, you tell me I don't ask for help enough in the office. Like, it's just, and I don't realize I'm not doing. But there probably is an element of pride that, like, I should be able to do this myself. I should be able to handle all this stuff. Why am I not able to handle all this stuff? And it's, because I look at humility as different. Like, there's plenty of things I don't know. I'll be the first one to say I have no fucking clue. Like, literally have no clue. But when it comes to asking for help, it's a little bit different.
That's interesting.
Yeah, like, that's how I look at myself. Maybe I'm wrong.
See, something I have found over the years, I was probably a lot like Rocco years ago whenever I was younger and not asking for help. Like, had a very strong temper. I mean, name it, and that was me. I know, it's shocking.
I can't imagine.
Not shocking.
I can't
at
imagine.
Oh,
Okay.
But something I have found over the years
Temper.
is what?
I said, wow, you definitely had a temper. Absolutely.
I don't think you really ever saw the full extent.
No, but I just heard of it.
Okay.
Shots have been fired.
Yes.
Legendary temper. You're kidding.
I think that whenever you're not in a position of, like, laying your pride down, there's just so many relationships that you'd be surprised that you would kind of get into when you do go to somebody and you lay that down and you ask for help or you ask for, it just kind of softens, I think, the interaction.
1,000,000%.
And with everybody now, like, this prideful and thinking that, and I don't know if it's because, like, we can find the answer, whether the answer is correct or not, that we also have that at our fingertips, if that also kind of creates that or kind of, is a part of it.
It's a compliment to the other person too. It's a very subtle compliment when you ask for help, because you're saying, I don't understand this. You obviously do. Would you mind showing me? Mm-hmm. And I don't want to discount that, because I think people like to feel needed and important. Even if it's subtly, that there's a quality about what they do and it's being respected by somebody, and so they're more than willing. Think about it. Have you ever really truly been turned down by someone that you asked help for? I mean, really. In most instances, aren't people generally willing to to help?
I was.
Oh, do tell.
It's the most interesting, just one word. No. Oh. Okay.
Well, I mean, there's brevity there, right? I mean,
to the premise of this whole conversation, I do feel like I've had those times where someone is maybe approaching me about something, and I can feel the physiological response, the heart racing, the mouth's getting a little bit dry. You feel the escalation of them just coming at you, and that is a whole thing with that. The trigger response and the how do you manage through that? And I think that's some of what these difficult people, and I do have a few that are in my life, and I will get to the point where I start to consciously, it's almost like I'm like, breathe. I'm just, because I know if I can get through that initial physiological response, which is that fight or flight or whatever, you just want to launch or run or whatever it is, that I will let them talk through it. And usually by that time, I'm beginning to process. Your word at the beginning, and I meant to comment on that, was, that's interesting. What brought you to that conclusion? Or why did you ask me that question? Or how did you come to that thought? That's interesting. Always the bridge.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Because you're not discounting.
You're not discounting them.
You're just
right.
You're getting them to explain why. Because at the moment you say that's wrong, then they're just, even if they are wrong, they're going to debate. But if you say that's interesting, tell me more, then they'll explain, and then it allows you to navigate that conversation where it needs to go. Yeah. But in a non-confrontation, it's confronting without being confrontational.
Exactly.
And that's why you use that answer or that question.
Well, if the goal is understanding in any verbal exchange, at least it is for me, why would you not use terms that encourage communication? You know, it's like your point's well made. If you say you're wrong, that's not really a real welcoming response.
Because some people just want to poke the bear.
Right, yeah.
Some people just want to poke the bear.
Once in a while, you gotta do it a little bit. There are moments where you gotta pick your shots.
And that's where you'll get attorney Lynn. You will get. I had somebody who was like talking to me about a particular subject that I was very well versed in and actually studied for years, and they kept dropping like little, sending me links and like was confronted in a parking lot about this situation. Well, why don't you believe that? And I flung around, finger in hand. I was just like, because da-da-da-da-da-da, and I just started all my bullet points, so, and that's a wrong response because but again, I had allowed that. I didn't open up the dialogue. I had allowed that to just build and build and build, and then when I had to confront it, it was shoulders straight, eyes locked, and my bullet point, my slide deck was running. I mean, I was off to the races. And I get a little, it's just this quiet psychotic. Yeah. Well, because this, and in this time, and this day, and this sighting, and I'm like, I should have been an attorney.
Yes. Well, second career. There's always an office for you to place at our office.
Wouldn't you feel, though, that there has to be moments when dealing with someone who's quote-unquote difficult, that there's got to be times where you must stand up for yourself.
100%.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Maybe not always, naturally, but to me, being a doormat in any relationship is not healthy. I even tried that in relationships at the time, business relationships, trying to be so overly accommodating that you end up taking it on the chin, sometimes very badly. And, but it's a fine line. But standing up for yourself and for your organization, and knowing when and how.
Well, the when and the how is what's important. The when, the how, and the why. Because to me, it's like you have to understand what the outcome you're trying to achieve is what the other person's trying to achieve. And if I don't need to confront or stand up for myself because I control what they want, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, they call that leverage.
Yeah, I'm not gonna waste my energy in being confrontational.
Right.
End all be all, I hold the keys. But if they hold the keys and I have to, because I will always be kind to people, but I will always fight for what I believe and what is right, and I will always fight for the people that I care about. There are certain times where I'm not going to waste my time or my energy, because end all be I know what the person wants, and there's no chance of getting it if I don't give it to them. So if I give it to them, or if I engage in this, what's the point? I control the outcome. So I can waste my energy and waste my time debating or arguing with someone, or I can say, I know what the person really wants, and I hold the keys. Cool. Do what you want. I'm not going to engage in it. You do you.
How important is it for you to be right in a conversation?
I couldn't care less.
Yeah, I don't care. I really don't.
Like I will, if I think I'm right, I will fight, but I will always listen to another person's viewpoint. If you prove me wrong, you prove me wrong. Like I don't need to prove myself of being right, but there are times where if I know that objectively this is right, like I will make that point, not in a confrontational way. I don't think I have this burning desire to be right. When I was younger, I definitely did. As I've gotten older, like to me, it's like I want to do what's right in the moment. What is right for the situation? What is right for the person? Like that's how I look at it. I don't know. I mean, I don't think I have this burning desire to be right.
I think it depends on the topic.
Yeah,
I think it depends on the topic. I mean, if it's something that you're passionate about, I'll speak for myself. I mean, I'm definitely going to want probably to be right, but then also if I have more experience and I'm speaking from, it's probably more that. If I'm speaking from a position of that I have like real world experience with it, and there's a difference in my mind between a discussion and a debate, and you're debating with somebody that you know has never gone through it, and they're trying to tell you something that, like, you know, it is not the case when you know you've been through it and you know exactly what is going on. That is different. So it really comes down to the topic and then and the emotion behind it too. I mean, is it something that you carry some level of emotion? I mean, at least for me, if there's emotion involved,
It's dangerous.
Then I'm definitely gonna take a different stance, and then for sure want to do everything and pull out everything that I can to be right, you know, whatever the topic is at that point, if there really is something like emotionally attached.
So you would spend all that energy then to be right?
I would, because something I have learned over the years, not in a disrespectful way, and this is something I kind of can see in the younger generation that they don't seem to understand. I think we as humans, stuff resonates with us more than even people show. And if you just get one point across, so let's just say you're not right, but you're fighting from the standpoint of wanting to be right. So you're going to put everything you can into that. We'll never know what has been left and what has resonated with them and then what they're going to think about. And it might hit them like weeks down the line. You know, again, no, I'm not talking like a whole argument. You know, I'm talking something that you're really debating and you do feel strongly about, and it really, you believe genuinely that it's in the best interest of the person, and they just absolutely disagree, you know. I don't know. I mean, I just know that's something over the years that I have found with myself and discussions I've been in, that something has resonated with me. And I've also seen that, you know, vice versa, that's something I've said and people have come back and said, you know, I never really thought of it after, you know, the emotions are out of it and after they've really had time to think about it. And I don't know. But yeah, I mean, to answer your question, I do, you know, in probably more times of weakness, do try to come at, you know, to want to be right, which is not the right approach, but
They're right or wrong.
And I think too, when it comes to, like you were talking about debating and discussing, like a couple pieces of advice I've always followed is I will listen to anyone and try and learn from anyone who has more experience in a particular area than me. Mm-hmm. I will not take advice from someone I wouldn't trade places with. Mm-hmm. Like that's how. Like if you have more experience on a certain matter than me, I will listen to it. Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to take generalized advice if I wouldn't trade places with you. Because there are people that I've dealt with that, you know, when I was leaving corporate America, that's a dumb idea. Why would you do that? I'm like, did you ever start a business?
Yeah.
Did you ever if you haven't started a business, then why would I listen to you? Like I get it. You're coming from a fear-based place. And to me, it's like, but I took advice from people that have started a business, and they gave me things to look out for.
Well, that type of advice is never given unsolicited.
Correct. Yeah, exactly.
You see, the advice you're going to get, the unsolicited advice you're going to get on most things is coming from a non-qualified place.
Yeah, I can't tell you one time I've had. I mean, that's a really good point because again, like that, I heard that a long time ago. Like, never take advice from someone you wouldn't trade places with. Right. And that just always resonated with me. And I look at the source. Mm-hmm. Who's telling me to do something or not do something? I say, would I trade places with that person?
Right.
Personally or professionally.
Right.
And if I wouldn't, I'll listen to them. I'm not going to dismiss somebody or be disrespectful. And I may take a nugget from them, but I'm not going to blindly follow the advice because they told me that's what I should do. Like, really. Mm-hmm. That's just how I've always looked at it. And helped me so far. I'm only 37, so I don't know.
All right, last question for the evening. Do you practice any degree of conscious indifference?
Every day. Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah. There's so much shit I don't care about. I was like, I don't really care. Doesn't matter to me. Yes, absolutely. We've talked about this a million times.
Yeah, I kind of know your
Yeah,
answer already.
yeah, you know. Yeah, you guys answer. I don't want to answer this question.
No, you can answer this question.
That's my answer. Like, yes, every day. There's very little in life that, on a grand scheme, that I care about, other than what I'm doing and what I'm building and the people that I care about.
Mm-hmm.
Climate change, indifferent. Don't care. Really don't care about that. Like, the polar caps, don't care. Seriously, there's so many things I don't educate myself enough on it to really have an opinion one way or the other. And if that makes me whatever, I'm okay with it. I'm not going to waste my time on it. I'm indifferent every day.
Yeah, I mean, I do. And then there's moments that then I don't, and then wish that I would have.
That's a good point.
I mean, unfortunately, Rocco knows. Just recently, I mean, I'll say one thing like, oh, I have full control over this, or and then I get an email out of nowhere, and then like the whole day into the next day, then potentially could be like ruined. And then as I look back, it's just like, wow, so had I really exercised that conscious indifference,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 24-hour period would not have gone the way that it did.
Mm-hmm.
Powerful.
Yeah.
It is. It really is. I mean, it is. So I've actually, in the last few years, we were in a meeting the other day, and they asked me if I knew of now I recognized him when I looked him up on, online. I had my computer in front of me, but they asked me if I knew a name, a political person. And I didn't know. And it was kind of like, and then whenever I looked him up and I saw his face, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, he looks familiar. But honestly, in the last 4 years, like I've intentionally not gotten involved because it just infuriated me for a period of time. And I had to separate and just step back so in that regard, yes, if I could do it every single day, the conscious indifference, I think, but then there's like those moments of weakness, but.
What about you?
I have been taught that you never have an opinion over anything you don't have control over, in a sense. So, yeah, that's conscious
good luck
indifference.
with that.
Well, and it is. Rocco and I've talked
statement,
about this.
yeah.
But stoicism. There's a degree of stoicism. There's only so much bandwidth. I can't comment on everything, like you said. The polar caps, climate change. I just can't.
No, absolutely.
I'm hoping to make a difference in my own world. But I do notice that as I practice stoicism, it's not that you have no feeling, but you are very well aware that the escalation of your feeling usually never serves a purpose, because that skews your thinking and gives you a wrong response in most cases. So I am comfortable taking that step to level out and think it through, and then realize often, and I think the point that maybe you were driving for is what motivates people to be the way they are, whether they're confrontational or they're, anxious or they're whatever, and step back into their shoes. And that's really the thing, is they are focused on something that has really nothing to do with me. And I think that's where I do practice a lot of conscious indifference. It's not that I'm not empathetic or compassionate, but I'm not very much moved. And if I do make a mistake, I just own it. Yeah, I'm human.
Yeah, we make them every day.
Gonna make them every day.
Yeah, I think indifference is so misunderstood. It's such a dirty word to the average person when you bring up the idea that's immediately just a negative connotation with it. You're an uncaring person. You what about this? What about that? And I, for many years, felt like I needed to have an opinion or a viewpoint on anything that would be brought to me. I had to make an instant viewpoint. It wasn't until I started doing this that people that came in had things they want to talk about. And I tried to be interested in everything. And I realized that this is insane. So initially I was having guests on here because I thought they were the guests to have, because I didn't know where this was going. And then I realized I want to go home and just put a bullet in my head because I can't take this anymore. And I just realized that there's so many things that I see and feel and occupy space in other people's heads that does not resonate with me at all. To the point where I just started practicing it all the time with a lot of different things, and it's been wonderful. Doesn't always landed well, it hasn't always landed well. That because there's a mentality out there with some that all the heady things that they believe are very important, you must have an opinion on. If you don't, then you're an uncaring asshole. And that's not the case. It's like, I'm showing discernment with the amount of mental energy I have.
That's good.
Right? So that's a survival mechanism for me, more than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, we only have so much headspace. And if I'm going to fill it up with opinions about the turtles and metal straws, don't care. I'm not going to waste headspace on that.
The Gulf of America.
Yeah, that is great. That is pretty awesome. It's changed on Google Maps now. It says Gulf of America. Really? Yeah, it says Gulf of America now, which is awesome. It's also awesome that he has his mugshot outside of the Oval Office.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool, too.
That's actually pretty funny. That's true. But again, indifference is a powerful thing.
It is, and it's not. It can be used cruelly, I'm sure. But if you're just using it for basically your own survival, and I view it that way. I don't want to have to be consumed by my thoughts. Like I can't sleep as it is. All this shit banging in my head. I'm like, I gotta let it go.
Right.
This does not pertain to me.
Right. Yep.
It just doesn't. I feel bad. I don't want to hear negative things about people, but I mean. My grandmother used to say, she loved animals. She goes, you can't save every cat. I'd love to, but I can't. Can't save every dog. But invariably, they're going to pull at your heartstrings. You're going to see the ads. You're going to see, so I can't, using that as like the example, I can't be overly concerned with all these different things because if you did, you'll end up in an insane asylum. And I think there's a lot of people that are close to it.
Oh, yeah.
People live and die by the news and every issue, and they got to have an opinion. I mean, half the opinions that I read from people that I went to high school with on social media, these guys couldn't tie their shoes. They couldn't get out of third grade, spelling. But they're going to tell me that, about international politics or, it's all bullshit. In the end, it's just all bullshit.
Listen, man, I go back to when it was like fight for Ukraine. I said, point on a map where Ukraine is. Like, how about we start there? If you're going to change your Facebook profile picture to support Ukraine, how about you point it on a map? Because I don't know where it is. I don't know where it is. But if you can do that, then great. Then you should support them. But because I would see people on social media that would everybody change their stand with Ukraine. I said, do you know where Ukraine is?
Right.
Because we didn't have geography in high school. I know that. We didn't have it. I don't know where Ukraine is. I know it's somewhere.
Geography?
No, we didn't. We stopped. When I was in high school, they started having that as a class. So I'm like, I know a lot of these people. I don't know that you can point to it on a map because I don't know that I can.
Did you have PA physics or civics? PA civics.
We had civics. Yeah, we had civics, but we didn't have geography. No, we didn't.
Why?
I don't know. I didn't make the school district rules. I just know that there were a lot of people that I saw on social media that I'm like, I guarantee they couldn't point out Ukraine.
It's unconscionable. How did that happen?
I don't know.
It was such a short time.
Maybe
You're
that's
only a
why I
couple
don't
years
know
younger.
where
You
Ukraine
can't even.
is.
Yeah, you can't even point out Sweden on a map, can you?
I can point out Sweden.
Well, yeah, because it says Sweden there.
Right, I can point out Ukraine too if I see Ukraine there. But again, my whole point is there were so many.
Could you point out the Congo?
No.
Point taken.
No, but I'm saying, but my whole point is that people got very vocal about issues that they really had no understanding of.
Why though? Because they feel like they're supposed to have an
Yes,
opinion?
they had to have an opinion. They had to pick a team.
It's not fun. They're not doing it for fun.
No. Like
I would
like
think.
the pandemic, it's like everyone I knew became a constitutional scholar and an epidemiologist. I'm like, you were telling fart and dick jokes a month ago. And all
Same
of a sudden
people
you
that are watching Tiger King.
Right. And now you understand the Constitution at a level greater than I do, and I went to law school for 3 years. Okay. I guess this is how life works. That's not like we've lost our mind as a society. We've collectively lost our mind. It's like, these doctors are wrong. I'm like, well, how do you know? Because I just know. I said, did you go to med school? No. Did you go to college? No. I used Band-Aids, so I'm qualified.
There you go.
I'm like, all right, I give up. That was that's when we lost our mind. So I think the pandemic made me become very indifferent. That's truly when my indifference started at a grand scale. I mean, I don't really care about any of this shit. True. I'm just saying.
And with that, we bring a conclusion to the festivities. Thank you.
No, it was fun.
Sorry.
Just speak the truth, man. Just speak the truth.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And come again. We're out.